Hello there, this is Dan, and you're about to listen to an extract from an episode of the Cushing Podcast. Unfortunately, our homepage at noisybark.com is no longer online, but we hope to have a new homepage set up soon. Watch for updates on Facebook and Twitter under @LeeCushingPod. In the meantime, stick with our home on YouTube, Ambidextrous Solutions Limited, to hear more extracts like this one. The presenters are Howard and myself, and the music is by Greg Hume. This is the Bag of Death. Okay, so right now we're going to talk about one example of the great films of Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, and this recording that we're making now will go on the future episode of our podcast that's going to be about that film. So, does anybody want to be a volunteer and rummage in the Bag of Death for us?
I don't mind.
Okay, can you hold that?
Yes, certainly.
Dracula AD 1972.
Oh, right.
That's the one we wanted to hear! Right! Okay, so, dig the music, kids.
What is that song they sing? Dracula.
There's the song by the Stone Ground as well.
Stone Ground.
Oh my god. Anybody in this room seen Dracula AD 1972?
Yes.
I knew you would,
Yes.
Mr. Dennison. How would you sum up Dracula AD 72 in one word?
Diseased.
Very good. Okay, so does anybody know what this movie is?
I'm assuming about halfway.
Absolutely. Well, in 1958, Hammer Films produced Dracula, starring Christopher Lee as Dracula and Peter Cushing as Van Helsing. It was very, very successful, and it led to a whole series of sequels of varying quality. In 1972, somebody had the bright idea. It was by 72, I think they'd made 5 or 6 of them,
Yes.
and they were starting to not have much impact at the box office. They started to make them very, very violent, very, very full of nudity to try and attract new audiences, but that wasn't really working. But then there was an American movie that came out called Count Yorga Vampire, or The Loves of Count Yorga Vampire is its alternative title. And that was just like a low-budget movie about a vampire stalking around Los Angeles. But because it was modern day and it was very down-to-earth, it was really fresh. It wasn't set in the kind of Victorian Middle Europe milieu that most of these movies are. So somebody at Hammer decided, hang on a minute, that works, let's do one of our Draculas like that, let's bring him up to date. So they paid a writer to come up with Dracula AD 1972. They brought back Peter Cushing as not the original Van Helsing, but Van Helsing's great-grandfather, grandson, who was called
Lorimer Van Helsing.
Lorimer Van Helsing, and Christopher Lee, who was resurrected from being dead in a very convoluted manner involving drugs and kids who were on drugs and into like rave music. Well, not rave music.
Well, I'm not quite sure. They all look about 30 years old, but they're all supposed to be teenagers. And one's dressed as a monk.
Yes,
for no reason.
They all get around in this abandoned church and do this kind of sexy ritual, which is supposed to be for kicks. But the evil leader of the group, whose name is Johnny Alucard, which is in no way a clue to his...
Not Dracula backwards.
No, certainly not Dracula backwards. If it was that easy to solve, if it was that easy to solve, Peter Cushing's character would not have to grab a piece of paper, write Alucard on it and Dracula on the bottom, and then draw lines to work out they were the same.
Johnny Alucard backwards is Dracula Enoch.
Exactly.
I think that's probably the most intelligent comment anyone's ever said about Dracula AD 1972. So they get round in this ritual, and Johnny Alucard puts some weird music on and goes, "Dig the music, kids!" Seriously. And then they mix up some ashes into blood and pour it over Caroline Munro's bust, and that's what brings Dracula back to life. And it certainly is enough to wake anyone up. What do you think about Dracula AD 72, Howard?
Well, the thing is, of course, it's not very good, and I love it.
Absolutely.
I just think it's kind of no, I don't know. I mean, I suppose I watched it as a kid and I loved it then, and when I was about 12 years old, and yeah, it's not very good. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's kind of it's fun. It's fun on its own sort of.
Is it trashy, bad,
Yes.
cliche?
I mean, the dialogue's pretty terrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
The dialogue written for the young people. One of whom is a young Michael Kitchen, or relatively young Michael Kitchen, and the others just disappeared. No, well, there's
Well, Stephanie Beacham.
and-
Caroline Munro. One of them was played by Janet Key, who was about a year later was playing Regan's wife in The Sweeney.
Oh, wow.
So that's how teenage she was.
Yeah. They all, I mean, they've all, yeah. They all look about 30 years old. But they're, and they've all got that terrible dialogue to say, like.
But did you not watch it as an adult after being
Oh, yeah.
and then think, actually, this is a little bit crap?
Yeah, well, no, I thought it was a little bit crap, but I still.
Still got because of the nostalgia.
Partly because of nostalgia,
Yeah.
partly because it's just kind of unapologetic and
Yeah,
unpretentious.
it's obvious.
It is what
yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And if you like that sort of thing, and if you like those sort of films, then
Well,
you've got to be kind of. I would imagine a lot of people watching it not liking it and thinking this is really awful, but.
I would say you have to see it. It's one of those movies you have to see. It's just sort of got a wonderful desperation about it. It's beautifully made, actually. It's really nicely shot. There's a wonderful video on YouTube that you showed me where they've cut together all the shots of Van Helsing with like funky music on it and done it as if it was the title sequence for a 1970s cop show called The Van Helsing Mysteries. And it's just wicked. You just watch it and go, I wish this was a real thing. Yes, Cushing's really good.
Listen, brilliant. The first scene is brilliant when having the fight on top of the stagecoach, which is set 100 years previously. And Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing are fighting on top of the stagecoach, and it crashes, and he stakes him and everything. And that's really well done. And then the credits start, and it all goes downhill after that. So
Well, the credits
the
are...
next 90 minutes.
There's the amazing thing. It starts with the funeral of the old Van Helsing, doesn't it, in 1872, whatever. And the camera kind of shows the coffin lowering down into the hole, and the title comes up saying Dracula. But then the camera pans up into the sky, into this beautiful blue empty sky, and suddenly a bloody 747 jet appears in it, like that, and the thing goes 1972.
What?
And the music, it's like funky music starts up. All the older Hammer movies. Yeah. I spent far too much of my life watching this film. At one point,
I haven't.
the weird thing is that they made a sequel to this called The Satanic Rites of Dracula, which is only like made and set a year later. And I think that's actually really good. It's like they got the atmospheric way to do a modern vampire story. But Dracula AD 72, and I saw Satanic Rites first and thought, this is great, I must watch Dracula AD 72, and then I watched 72 and was like, eh? And weirdly, that happened again when I was at university. I was watching Satanic Rites of Dracula one night with my housemates, and they had some friends around who I didn't know that well. But they all enjoyed the Satanic Rites of Dracula and said, have you got anything else like this? And I was like, oh, well, I've got Dracula AD 1972. So they went, okay, and we put that on. And it's like when there was like a chase scene in it with Van Helsing chasing after Dracula and like funky bluesy music playing, one of the guys just went, this music is just far too light-hearted. And I just thought, and he was like,
it's not Hammer style music.
Yeah.
It's sort of like,
because all the early Hammer films are like the horror movies that kind of defined horror movie music. They're like really melodramatic. Dun! Like the actual theme tune to Dracula is based on the syllables Dracula. So it's like dun dun dun. And that's, I think the critic Matthew Sweet said it's music that screams as the audience screams, which I thought was a lovely phrase.
Did you say that?
But then Dracula AD 72, they just chucked that out. They kind of went, the kids aren't interested in that. We want pop music. We want to sell albums, bluesy, whatever. But it just doesn't work. But it's wonderful.
But do you laugh at it as well, though? Do you think it's funny, or do you actually...
You mean it's the
funny by accident, I mean. Like, is it funny because
definitely.
Because it's silly?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I say you've got to watch it. Because every now and then... I mean, it starts off with... after the kind of title sequence and the action in the past with Dracula and Van Helsing, there's a whole sequence which is some hippie kids crash an upper class party and a rock band that they bring with them starts playing music and all the upper class rich people are at the side of the room going, this is dreadful, but the kids are like in the middle of the room going, you're so square, and it's terrible, it doesn't advance the plot.
film.
And one of these kids is Van Helsing's granddaughter, played by latter-day soap opera star Stephanie Beacham. So that's kind of the link into the plot. Yeah, it's not a great movie.
There's a band that they call Stone Ground, though. It's called Alligator Man. That song's called Alligator Man.
Right.
I remember that. You have to watch it just for that. For that music.
I seem to remember the honky tonk pianist. There's like
There's about 68 people in the band, and they've all got different kinds of hair.
Yeah, it's one of the. It's totally dated. It was dated at the time, but it's also so 70s. It's so late 60s in a way. I would say you've got to see it.
Yeah,
I mean,
watch that now.
The problem is that film, like a lot of the Dracula films, is that Dracula's not in it very much.
No.
They bring him back to the present day, but he never goes out to church. Never actually does anything in modern day.
Yeah, he just stands there and like points at people. But the thing is, Christopher Lee hated the script. He hated the script, and he hated all the scripts of these films. He was quite a big star by this point. And apparently Hammer he'd always go, right, I'm not doing any more now. No more Draculas. And then, because that's what he spoke like. Yeah. Genuinely, it's almost uncanny. But Hammer would then go, oh, sorry, Chris. Because they spoke like that as well. They go, oh, sorry, Chris, we've already pre-sold it to the Americans. And they've given us the money. We've got to make the film. And if you quit the film now, we'll have to cancel the deal and everybody will lose their jobs. So we'd go, all right then, but don't make me say anything.
Christopher Lee ever turn anything down?
Yes, yes.
Carry on, Dick.
Right. Oh, that's a shame.
No, he turned down Halloween. They approached him to be the Donald Pleasance character in Halloween.
And Peter Cushing.
Yeah, and apparently.
Donald Pleasance, not him.
Yeah, apparently when Christopher Lee saw the film, he did actually say, I wish I'd done that, it's a brilliant film. But on the other hand, unlike, Donald Pleasance made a career for the next 20 years of appearing in Halloween sequels, I don't think Christopher Lee would have done
I
that.
think you'd make a good vampire.
That's what it can
You know what I mean? No, he's got that similar sort of thing about him, that.
Dead.
Undead charisma.
For those people who can't see, she was slapping my leg. Weird sound effect there.
Yeah, they might not know what was going on there. That was a bit weird.
It wasn't an attempt to revive me.
No comment. So, all right, folks. So I think we've come to the end of our allotted time. Like Christopher Lee's Dracula, we may be resurrected at some point, but not tonight. I think there are other. Maybe next year. Yes, hopefully. That'd be lovely. We're still going. So, by the way, our wonderful playout music is by Greg Hume and has been specially composed for this event.